Hey guys, welcome to the Gods Unchained beta with the TheProfesserf. All right, we have a special treat today. With IMX just around the corner, I wanted to bring a special guest in today to talk about play to earn. Currently, any card transactions will include a high gas fee, so with IMX coming, gas fees will be no more and our card economy will be able to go back to a free-flowing nature. Cards will be listed on IMX and players will be able to freely buy and sell cards. This will open the door once again for players to be able to participate and play to earn. So today we're going to talk to Cautionfun, who was able to experience the play to earn benefits that Gods Unchained provides. Hey guys, I got a special treat today. I'm here talking with Cautionfun. Cautionfun, for those of you that don't know, is a member of TeamStreamTeam. He is TeamStreamTeam is one of the top esports team in Gods Unchained. He is also has multiple top 10 ranked weekends finishes under his belt. He's very highly competitive and highly skilled players in Gods Unchained. He also is an active member of the community, very friendly. He's a full-time streamer. You get to interact with him on his stream, and TST does have a Discord, and he's very helpful in the Discord. And one thing about Cautionfun that some of you may not know is he also has direct experience with play to earn. So we're going to spend some time today to get to know Cautionfun and also talk about play to earn. So welcome, Caution.
Hey, thank you for that lovely introduction, and thank you for having me on.
Hey, you're welcome. First off, I think your in-game handle is Cautionfun, but I think I myself call you Caution. So are you okay with that? Or do you prefer the full Cautionfun? Or do you like the formal addressing of Mr. Fun?
No, I do kind of like just being referred to as Caution, because you're right, it kind of makes it sound like a first name, last name situation, which I find pretty funny. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so well then, since we're on the topic of name, how about giving us a little bit of origin story on your name?
for Caution Fun there,
Sure.
uh, that's just a silly little story. My buddies and I, we were biking around, and my one friend was trying to convince my other friend to do some light trespassing, I guess, normal teenage boy stuff,
All right.
And so my buddy, there's this big warning sign there, and my buddy goes, he points it out, and he says something along the lines of, "Dude, it says caution right there." And my other friend, the one who was, peer pressuring, said, "Yeah, caution, fun." And I just thought it was the funniest thing. Later that day, I needed to make an account for some online service, and just been with it ever since.
Yeah, so that just kind of stuck with you. So has that been your in-game handle for all this time? Have you gone with other in-game handles?
Really, not that I can recall. Since I picked Caution Fun, that's kind of been the name everywhere I go.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, for me, it's the way before we talked right now, I always interpreted your name as saying, any interaction with you or going to your stream, it's like heads up, you're gonna have fun. So for me, it's a positive. Yeah, for me, it's a positive connotation where I always feel like, all right, this is gonna be a fun guy. It's gonna be a good experience. So, but I don't know if sure that was your intent or if that was your other friend's intent, but hey, that's the vibe that I was getting from it.
Just a happy coincidence, I guess. But I'm glad to hear it. Nevertheless, I hope everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, I think once when people get to see your stream or interact with you, I think it's pretty easy to get that vibe from you.
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes me happy to hear.
yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, let's jump into some Gods Unchained questions. How long have you been playing Gods Unchained? I think you're one of the OGs, original gamers, right?
In theory, although I certainly wasn't there from the very beginning. I started playing either October or November of 2019, and started playing it, in earnest, like taking it seriously, shortly thereafter.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, you have over a year of experience, and how did you find out about Gods Unchained?
Uh, yeah, I was just at that time just learning about NFTs and the idea of uh, probable digital scarcity and ownership, but not so much with like, a unit of account like a currency, but with a non-fungible token. And the when I first learned about them, the most obvious use case that I could think of was ownable digital in-game items. And I saw a couple of different projects developing, pretty rudimentary blockchain games using NFTs in that capacity. Um, yeah, I found, I think the first one I tried was Ethermon or something along those lines. Um, and shortly thereafter, I found Gods Unchained. And I mean, I was pretty stoked just in the sense that, like, I grew up playing, Pokemon TCG, dabbled in Yu-Gi-Oh, played a lot of Magic the Gathering, and Hearthstone, before I found Gods Unchained there.
Right.
And I loved the collectability and the card economy of Magic the Gathering, and like trading, collecting, etc. But I loved the convenience of Hearthstone in that, like, I could just have my MacBook and it's got my entire card collection, and making a new deck is, you don't have to sort through multiple binders or deck boxes to find that card you need. You just type it in the search bar and there it is. So like the I guess the things that come with a tangible paper card game, I loved, and I loved the convenience of a digital card game. And I mean, once I saw Gods Unchained, I was just like, oh my goodness, it's an intersection of those two things plus blockchain tech, which I do more so come from the blockchain side of things than the TCG side of things. But yeah, it was just like this intersection of so many of my favorite things, and I don't know, I've just been hooked ever since.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up the a great point there about the intersection, and not only is it intersection, I think, but it brings the best of both worlds because, like you mentioned a little bit a while ago, when you mentioned about the tangibility and physical aspects of the card games like Magic, except you said, you kind of have to look for your binders, your card boxes, etc. But I think the digital version of it eliminates that downside where if you are trying to put the deck together and you can't find that one card that you need for your deck, then you're like, wait, where is it? Which box is it in? Which binder is it in? Did I trade it? So,
Exactly.
yeah, so you're right, totally. Where, I think Gods Unchained definitely has that sweet spot where it brings, the convenience of digital assets, kind of like Hearthstone, but at the same time that ownership and for me the same thing. I feel like the benefits of being able to experience those two of digital ease and also ownership. I was like, wow, this is a great concept.
Yeah, and I mean, with the digital ownership comes the global marketplace with little to no friction, save for the egregious gas fees on Ethereum right now. But I mean, like, I can buy a card off of a fella from Russia and sell a card to a fella from Australia, without searching through eBay or various online uh, marketplaces and whatever. And there's no real shipping time other than the time to get confirmed in a block. Just it's so ideal. And yeah, I'm just happy to be in and get to take part in it.
Yeah, you're totally right on. Because for me, someone that hasn't experienced this as much, but I think, I'm more concerned with the ease of it. Everything's happening on the back end, like you're talking about all that transactions stuff. But for me, just being able to see a card that I want or just have a card I want to sell and just, click a couple of buttons and, buyer seller meets and it's done. And I think Gods and Chains offers that, call it ease or, you know, no need for attention for details. It's just, okay, this is all you need to do to get a card or sell a card and it's done. But you're right, beyond it, there's that whole, call it meta level where people could think about it the way you are, where they're saying, wow, I just sold a card to a guy halfway across the world and I picked up this card from some other guy that I don't even know. So I think that it's so interesting that technology now, the age we're living in, where all that can happen, and it could be taken from my viewpoint, where it's like I just want it simple, I just want the card. Whereas you could kind of think deeper into it and really think about the interactions.
Yeah, huh. I never thought about that. Yeah, it's two sides of the same coin though.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
totally. Yeah, for me, it's just like, I just like the simplicity of it. But for you, it sounds like you're more on a thinker level, and you're thinking like, okay, so this is actually what this transaction that just happened. And I just find that interesting. Like you said, it's basically the same coin, just two sides of looking at it.
Yeah, I've mostly just been in awe at, just everything evolving out of the NFT space. And I mean, especially Immutable, the company behind GU here, they're actual pioneers. And like, I'm just thankful I've gotten to be here as they build it all out. And I don't know, I hope they achieve everything that they've visualized up to this point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they achieve and they benefit, then we all benefit as well, right?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Aligned incentives.
Definitely right on. All right. So you mentioned a quick little background on your card game experience about Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone. So I know right now at Gods Unchained, you're one of the top competitive players. How competitive were you in those other games, and how much do you feel like that transferred over to your current um, state as one of the top players?
Um, I I've taken Gods Unchained more seriously from a competitive standpoint than any of those prior. I mean, in the very beginning, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, it was just me meeting up with some friends at a Barnes and Noble and just playing on the coffee tables,
Right.
outside of the little cafe there. And Magic the Gathering was more or less born out of my two of my TS teammates, Bonk That and the Mudman, big shots. Um, those are high school friends of mine. Like we all went to the same school. We all live, in a 3-4 mile radius of each other. And we used to wait until my parents went to sleep, and then they would drive over, and we would set up a little card table in my driveway in my parents' house, and we would just play Magic the Gathering till 3, 4 in the morning. And it was never really about like building top tier like meta decks or like any sort of competitiveness. It was purely just for the camaraderie of it.
Right.
And yeah, I just and Hearthstone, the Mudman reached the top rank there, legend or whatever I believe it's called. With relative consistently. I never got to that point. Like I said, I never really put my full energy and effort into it the way I have Gods Unchained for periods of time.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was realizing like the meta of Gods Unchained when I arrived anyway was like very much in its infancy, and to some extent I think it still is. So I don't know if I just saw that as an opportunity or if that gave me like confidence,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I had some sort of head start. But yeah, for whatever, and maybe it's just because I like the game so darn much, but whatever it was, yeah, I've definitely taken Gods Unchained a lot more seriously than any of those other games in the past from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Where even for me, I came in, just fairly recently, not as much experience with Gods Unchained as you, but even then, right away when I first started, I felt like, okay, I may have missed out on Genesis, but you know what? The meta still feels like it's on a little bit of an equal footing. Definitely, people with Genesis cards are on a different level, but for the most part, a large portion of the player base, and you're playing against those people mostly, it still feels like we're on, somewhat equal footing with, core cards making the most of people's decks. So I do feel the same way as well, where I do feel like the meta is young. There's not a ton of card sets out there yet, so people could easily catch up or compete if they want to. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I have a feeling. I mean, I know the meta looks completely different now than it did, 6 months ago, and that looked completely different than it did when I started. And I'd imagine 6 months from now, we'll be looking back at the meta and thinking like, oh, wow, you remember when, ramp magic was a big deal and, mid-range light was like, real dominant.
Right.
Maybe we'll look back at that and have a chuckle.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna have to ask you a follow-up question here because you kind of opened the door. Um, so you mentioned that you mentioned your teammates and friends Bonk and Mudman coming over, but so why did they have to wait till your parents went to bed? And was it like an underground card club game that you guys were running on your driveway?
Uh, I think we mostly just like had some undiagnosed insomnia probably had something to do with it.
Ah,
But my parents at least were rather uptight, I guess is the right word. Strict. I don't know. Love you guys, but they it was bed by 11. You gotta wake up early for school, that kind of thing. So
right.
I would just be quiet for like 20 minutes and then sneak out the back door and hang out with my buddies.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's just funny to me. It just sounded like I was like, wow, are these guys doing like magic games at like $100 a pop or something? Because they're like, oh, we had to do it when the parents were sleeping.
Oh man, yeah, it was just
Yeah,
ruckus times in my
yeah.
parents' driveway.
This is kind of like that.
it, oh man.
It kind of just reminded me of that movie Boiler Room. I don't know if you've watched that movie, but Giovanni, the actor, was running a illegal casino in his house. So it was just like I was like, oh, is that what they were doing? Illegal magic games.
Given enough time, it might have ended up there, but no, it seemed so sneaky and like but it was the most innocent thing ever. We're
Yeah.
going outside to nerd out and
That's,
drink water.
that's what I'm saying. That's a funny story, underground nerding. Oh man, that was
Uh,
great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that story.
oh, no worries.
Before we jump into play to earn and what I wanted to talk to you about, anything else you want to share about yourself? I mean, you've shared a lot of great stories already.
Oh man, no, I just I'm just excited to talk about Gods Unchained. It's my favorite thing.
All
And
right.
yeah, if anybody is listening to this that hasn't, you know, had a chance to hash things out with me yet, you got anything Gods Unchained related you want to talk about, hit me up wherever you can find me. I'm always game.
Yeah, no, I could attest to that. Caution's definitely very approachable and easy to talk to and open with his help and questions. So definitely take him up on that offer, guys. All right, let's jump into
Oh, thank you
play
for
to
the
earn.
endorsement.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, it's not an endorsement. It's just the truth for me, really. I mean, that's been my experience with you. All right, so let's talk about play to earn here. So for those of you that may not know, Gods Unchained actually reached out to several players about a year ago now, and they asked them questions about their play to earn profile. And when I first started looking into Gods Unchained and hadn't played yet and was just kind of just looking into the game, I like to do a lot of research. This was one of the articles that I ran into. I didn't know Caution at that point, but I just felt it was very eye-opening to read the interview with Caution Fund regarding the play to earn profile. So starting off, I think one of the headlines was they took one of your quotes where you said, with the money you earned from Gods Unchained, you know, you could equate it to paying out your internet bill for several months. So I guess we could start there. You know, like for you, I think you mentioned that was sort of your like aha moment. So maybe you could speak more about that.
Yeah, no, I remember that so vividly, like it was yesterday. They announced, the system and how to earn flux and how to go about fusing your core cards into tradable copies. And I made sure I was very well rested. I got my games in as quickly as possible. And yeah, the first card that I fused and sold on the market was an Echophone. And I listed it for 0.123 ETH, which at the time was, only about $35. But nevertheless, it sold in about a minute.
Wow.
And that was, I mean, I had envisioned what play to earn would look like, and Immutable released a bunch of info about how the system would work, and you know so I had imagined it very vividly, but it's hard to believe, after all those years of being conditioned into, like, I spend $60 on a game,
Mm-hmm.
I play it, I earn stuff, and then that's it. Like, if I stop playing the game, I can't, I can resell the disc, maybe,
Yeah.
not even anymore, but I can't, all of those in-game items I worked so hard for, worthless. But just seeing the ETH in my wallet and just compartmentalizing, like, okay, I earned those cards from playing the game as I normally would, and just sold it for real money, and now I can take that real money and purchase other in-game assets that I don't yet have access to. I mean, that is the moment it became real for me, and nothing like it. Never seen anything like it, and I mean, as soon as you get a taste, I just don't know how I could ever convince myself to go back to that old model where I'm just putting in time and effort and resources, and I can't pull anything out without breaking some sort of, terms and services conditions.
Right. Yeah, 100% agree with you there. So for those of you that don't know, we're talking about play to earn with caution here because, as many of you might start to see, is Immutable has been putting out more communication about their layer 2 solution, IMX, coming soon. And with IMX coming soon, the hope is, and the plan is, that it'll open up the markets again for players like me, Caution, and you out there to be able to start listing cards for sale that we've earned by just playing the game. And Caution actually, was, as he mentioned, was one of the earlier players into Gods Unchained and was able to directly experience this ahead of time when forging was still up before gas fees went crazy. So it's great to hear his story about putting his first Echophon out for sale. So tell us a little bit. I mean, an Echophon's kind of hard to get there, Caution, but you did mention that Gods Unchained was one of the games where you kind of went, full effort and full attention to it. So did you just have a ton of Echophons from leveling up, or what was the story with that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, I the player base was quite a bit smaller at that point, um, but I had won probably 6 or 7 weekend ranked events at that point,
Hmm.
and there weren't Trial of the Gods packs to give out as prizes. So your prizes for first place was 5 core legendary packs.
Wow.
So I had dozens and dozens and dozens of core legendaries. I had probably 5 or 6 plus copies of all of them. Not to mention the epics. Not to mention the rares or the commons.
So you're pretty
So I
stacked
mean,
with the core cards.
yeah, I had built up quite the surplus. So it was really just every day trying to max out, you know, get the maximum amount of flux and find out how to most efficiently use it to forge my highest cost core cards.
Nice.
And yeah, it paid well. I mean, at the time the forge opened, I I probably had about 55 to 60% of the Genesis set. I was missing quite a few cards. But I mean, within the first 3, 4 weeks of the forge being opened, I was able to earn enough money from selling the core cards that I had earned just from playing to, purchase the remaining Genesis cards I had yet to collect and fill out my Genesis set, which, kind of creates that positive feedback loop. Like, you perform well, you earn cards, you sell those cards to get other cards you don't have, which makes you perform even better,
Right.
and it just keeps feeding itself. It's a beautiful cycle.
Yeah, so for a couple questions for the people that weren't there at that time, you mentioned earning flux. First question is, was that the same method as with the Gauntlet of the Gods, or was there a different way to earn flux back then? And the second question, you mentioned that completing your Genesis set. So again, not sure how the market looked back there. Was back then, were Genesis cards listed for sale individually, or did you just take the ETH from your selling and then bought packs with it?
Oh, so to answer your first question, the gauntlet was exactly the same.
Okay,
If you're at Mythic, 18 games, 1,310 flux, maximum amount you can get. And I made sure to do that, at least 6 days a week.
nice.
Um, and yeah, at that point, the Genesis packs were no longer available. So
Oh,
I
okay.
would just sell as many core cards as I could each day and reinvest those funds into Genesis singles. And,
Okay.
gas fees at that point were, between like 4 to 8 gwei. So I was paying about, 20, 30 cents per card in transaction fees. So it was much, much easier, the purchasing power of, ETH was much, much higher back at that point. So I definitely had it a bit easier than new players do now. Especially considering the forge isn't even open. But
Right.
once IMX comes, I don't see any reason it won't go back to the way it was when it first opened, which was the most exciting time in my short but sweet gaming career.
Yeah, no, I think you totally had the right idea with your earnings. I know your quote was you could have equated that earnings you got into, paying your internet bill, which is, I think, a good way to kind of really take that currency, which is crypto, which is digital, and kind of apply it to something real world. So I think that's a great metaphor for people to kind of think about. But I think as a gamer and someone that's competitive and someone that's enjoying the game, I think you totally had the right idea of taking your earnings from selling your core cards, and like you said, the positive feedback loop. You reinvested it into selling all your core cards, building that fund, building your fund up, and then you were able then to reinvest it in buying Genesis cards, which then made you more competitive. And like you said, is that feedback loop? I think was just amazing to hear that.
Yeah. I'm also, very lucky. I held a job for 11 straight years from the time I was 14. So I had a bit of money saved up to cover things like my internet bills and putting food on the table. But yeah, I mean, if I had just simply cashed out the money that I had earned from selling core cards, it would have gone a long way in
Right.
knocking out internet, electricity, that kind of stuff. I mean, play to earn is it's just fascinating to me. And
Yeah.
I hear about games that have like currently active play to earn models, and people in, I guess, lesser privileged countries making more than their minimum wage playing a computer game for 2-3 hours a day. And I mean, that just, if that doesn't paint like a wonderful picture of the future for you, I don't know what will.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's just crazy right now. Like you said, forging's down, but with IMX, hopefully, things will pick up. But that's just, I mean, it's gonna be crazy when we hear from other players now. Some of them will choose to take their earnings from selling and buy cards, but then you'll hear the story of people taking their cards that they sold and, like you said, using it for food, bills, entertainment, whatnot. So I just think it's gonna be such a big impact to the player base and to the future player base that will hear about it when they actually start hearing and seeing these stories of people just taking, a game and earning money from it.
Yeah, I mean, it made me really happy to hear about your experience coming across that interview that Immutable was kind enough to bring me in for, and reading it and thinking like, wow, this is definitely something I want to be involved in, and I mean, I can't imagine reacting to it any other way. The game kind of sells itself in
That
that it's it's super fun standalone,
right.
um, and they also flip the traditional model like completely on its head, where the company and the player base has like perfectly aligned incentives,
Yeah.
and the health of the game helps everybody involved. It's just It's just good.
Yeah, you put it perfectly there. Same thing. Like when I saw this interview that we're talking about, um, I've had my experience of you know, purchasing games, paying money for it, and then that was it. That was the expectation and the conditioning. You put money in, you get entertainment, done. But and then when I started learning about this, I was just like, wow, I could actually earn money or sell it if I'm done. I mean, there was just all these options in my head. I was just like, wow, I got to get into this. So yeah, no, totally glad I ran into that article. And little did I know that I'd be talking to you about it, a couple months later.
Small world, man.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so well, let's talk about a little bit looking ahead to the future with IMAX coming. Um, and then you've had the experience of when forging first released. Do you have any advice for the newer players that just joined? They don't have quite much of a collection, but with IMAX coming, and then let's say, their incentive or their goal is to be able to take advantage of the play to earn model. Maybe not the same degree as you did, but to maximize their play to earn ability. Do you have any advice for them?
Uh, I mean, first and foremost, I would join the TST Discord and hop in deck lists. And sorry, shameless plug,
No,
but
no problem. Yeah, it's
in,
very
in
useful.
all seriousness, reach out to the community. There's a wonderful community of streamers. There's a crazy amount of helpful people in various discords. TSTs, the main Gods Unchained discords. I know there are several other streaming entities that have their own as well. And as far as actual gameplay goes and like objectives within the client itself, um, I would definitely advise new players to just build out your collections as best you can as a free to play player until Immutable X. If you're looking to invest money in the game, I think your best bet would be purchasing rare Trial of the Gods packs just to get the maximum amount of cards for your dollar. But I mean, whether you take that route or whether you stick with the strict free to play, I would just grind and build out your collections as best you can before Immutable X. That should help you figure out what gods best suit your play style, what kind of archetypes you find preferable, and you'll collect cards along the way from leveling up and playing the weekend ranked events. And by the time Immutable X comes, hopefully you've built up a glut of extra cards, as I had the first time the Forge was opened, and you'll be able to trade or sell those to help fund any future purchases, or just cash it out and take your profits.
Right. Now, very
um,
sound advice there. And then just to kind of clarify, when you said grind for a new player, I'm thinking that equates to playing as many games as possible, win or lose, to earn that XP for the core rare packs and the ones that upgrade as well at different levels. But also, I think you're also advising players to finish that gauntlet, right, to earn that flux to help forge.
yeah, absolutely. Flux is the fuel for the forge, so yeah, I mean, always try to win if you can, but yeah, just if you can knock out even 4 or 5 gods on the gauntlet, you know with relative consistency, you should have enough flux by the time Immutable X opens to forge your extra core cards. Um, so, just making sure you're prepared with a glut of extra core cards, and B, a stack of flux sitting in your account. So that way, as soon as the forge opens, you're ready to go and get some of your extra cards on the market. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend searching around and purchasing like single commons and rares uh, with gas fees the way they are currently on the Ethereum network. Just removing those from the equation. If you're starting out with any kind of reasonable budget, you're gonna 10-20x your purchasing power by avoiding the gas fees and waiting until Immutable X comes out to really add specific individual pieces to your collection. Um, so yeah, I could see that being a pitfall that some newer players, you know,
Mm-hmm.
unwittingly step into. But yeah, like I said, I mean, if you can stomach, maybe a suboptimal win rate, I would just grind and build out your collections as best you can and stack that flux.
Right. No, I think that's very great advice. And another advice that I'm going to throw out there. I know, in preparation of IMX, you wrote a little article that many players are finding useful. Your Genesis buying guide. So you want to talk a little about that?
Oh, hey, thanks for the
Yeah.
plug, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember. I remember it was so useful to me. So I'd like the people listening to benefit from that as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, if you hop in our Discord or check out our Hive page, it's just hive.blog/TeamStreamTeam. Um, yeah, I wrote a, new player purchasing guide to the Genesis set, and I just covered some of the more ubiquitous Genesis cards that are likely that have super high usage rates right now in top tier decks, and they have unique enough effects, or they're strong enough to the point that I think they'll continue to see high usage rates for the foreseeable future. So if you want to, I guess, plan ahead and pick some cards you'd like to target early on to add to your collection, I mean, I hope you find it helpful. I, I I promise I'm giving the absolute best advice I can in that article there. I don't have any more ETH to spend on Genesis cards, so I'm all filled. So you guys can have at it.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. And I found it useful when Caution posted that blog. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a link to their um, to where the article is located. I'm also going to add a link in the video description to TSD's Discord. Um, very Two very useful things: the Discord and also that article. And then I think on the Hive page you post other articles as well, right?
Yes, and also guest contributor content such as the professor
Yeah,
here.
right on.
Um, just yeah, really, I mean, I gotta give it up to my TS teammates there. Just steady coming up with content ideas and uh, executing it with precision. And you as well, Copper Pitch. There are you know some really wonderful content creators in the community, and yeah, we're trying our best to not just give them a platform and give them access to a new audience of gaming content consumers, but also earn a little revenue on the side. And I think you'll be getting your first payout about 15 hours from now. So pretty excited about that.
No, it sounds
But
exciting.
yeah, no, yeah, we try to fill that page and our Discord really up with just either quality content or helpful information, and that's our goal. And if you have any questions or concerns or ways you think we can go about doing that better or more, please, I'm all ears.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing about Caution is not only does he have the wisdom that he freely imparts upon people, he's also always listening to people, interacting with people, and open to feedback and suggestions. That's one thing in my experience, has been great. You know, getting to know and talking with Caution. So I think a lot of people will find that as well, and not just Caution. I think a lot of the people in the community are of the same nature. So I think everybody's just helping everybody here.
I'm so glad this isn't a video thing. I'm blushing so hard right now.
Well, I'll just FYI, I
Thank you
do
for
have your
saying that.
yeah, I do have your stream playing, but don't worry, it's the packed opening one. So I don't think you're doing much blushing, except you are pulling some pretty sick pulls here. I'm looking at what you're getting, and I'm like, wow, it's great.
Oh, was it good?
Yeah, yeah, you had some pretty good pulls. You will see. You'll have to watch the video of the interview when it's done to see relive your pulls.
Yep, and make sure I didn't stumble over my words too much.
No, you're doing great, great. Yeah, let's start winding down the interview here. It took a lot of your time already, so I want to be respectful of that. Just real quickly, towards the end here, what are your expectations with IMX? Like, what do you think? Free think here. What do you expectations of IMX? Whether it's you think impact to player base or to game or anything. I mean, just that you even have expectations of IMX?
So many. I don't even know where to begin. I'm so excited for Immutable X for so many different reasons. I mean, the the blockchain enthusiast side of me is just, I think zero knowledge proofs and zero knowledge snarks are like some of the most mind-blowing technological advances that I've ever, seen or read about. And the blockchain side of me is just excited to see those in action. Like, it's truly groundbreaking technology. And it's not super often you get to experience and observe and nevertheless, much less take part in that. So that's exciting. The GU player side of me is excited to see if there's a marketing push that comes with the increased functionality that IMX brings. With that, they were obviously going to bring in a lot of new players. So I'm excited to see how the meta shifts and maybe like what decks come to the forefront. Fresh eyes will probably bring fresh ideas.
Right.
And also there will be many people that are finally able to fill out their collections without breaking the bank for gas fees.
Yeah.
We covered it earlier, the play to earn model making a comeback. Is very exciting. I've built up another surplus of core cards, so I'm excited to get those on the market, and excited to maybe pick up a couple of Genesis cards I'm trying to fuse shiny versions of.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, just the GU economy in general. One of the more fascinating things to me is that idea of like, okay, if there's a global marketplace and a global player base, if you remove all of the friction like associated with buying and selling and trading cards, I'm just excited to see how the economy plays out, and how the market moves, and as the meta shifts, like cards rise and fall in prices. And I feel like a lot of traditional like paper card games, there's like a bit of a lag period, just because things aren't nearly as seamless. You can't go to one website and see all available listings for a specific card in a
Right.
specific rarity or shine or condition. So I think things should move much more quickly. And I'm just excited to observe that. And I'm also excited more along the lines of comparing, the digital aspects to the traditional paper aspects. There are so many things that Immutable can take advantage of that are possible with, in-game assets being NFTs versus traditional paper card games. One idea that I've seen a lot of speculation thrown around about, that I'm super interested to see how it comes to fruition, if it comes to fruition, is the idea of card lending and rentals.
Oh, yeah.
And like lending pools.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's something that is quite literally impossible with traditional paper card games, but there's nothing stopping anybody from creating a protocol or a platform. Maybe it's built natively into IMX, where you can rent a card by the minute and just like, okay, I need this card for like 4 hours today to get my weekend ranked games out of the way.
Oh, you mean
Let me just like,
Demogorgon rentals for the weekend?
yeah, more or less, yeah. That was the first card that popped into my head. You're absolutely right. Maybe even for some people, it's just Pyramid Warden.
Right.
And it's going to be so interesting, because like there's a real equation to run through in your head if you're a prospective renter, in that like, okay, so like if I'm going to play this weekend and get 17 wins, I get $10 worth of prize packs.
Mm-hmm.
But like if I spend $5 to rent these 4 cards, that helped me get to 19 wins, and now I get $25 worth of prize packs. Like you just,
Right.
you beat out your initial cost, and got a pretty sweet return on your investment there. So that kind of system would benefit new players. It would help make more cards more accessible to new players, to more players, and it would also benefit existing card holders all the same. So that's something I'm super stoked to see how that plays out. And I don't know. I feel like there's just limitless potential, and I feel like a lot of that's been they've been like burdened by the gas fees in the state of the Ethereum blockchain. So I mean, now that we're lifting that weight off of their shoulders with IMX, I'm just excited to see what they choose to do and how they go about doing it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think you're bringing up some great ideas and great potentials with the technology that's going to be coming soon. Yeah, I think renting cards is another avenue. Some people might not be interested in selling their copy, or somebody might not just doesn't want to buy it. But I think having that option where try before you buy, you could rent the cards, or just you only need it for that specific window. I think that opens up so many doors and opportunities for people.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. All right. Before we wind down, just is there any? I know you're a busy man. With your gaming, streaming, teams, projects. Do you have any projects you're working on right now that you want to share with the community?
Um, More of the same, realistically. We're always going to be around for TS Tuesdays. Feel free to swing by any of our Twitch channels, and odds are you will find one of us streaming under the Gods Unchained tag. We just launched this past week, and I was thankful enough to have you as the inaugural guest post, but started a program called the TeamStreamTeam Content Creator Partnership Program. It's a mouthful, but yeah, like I said, like I alluded to before, essentially we just want to give the great content creators we have in the space a wider audience, and also reward them with actual, money for their time and efforts, kind of along the lines of, the play to earn model, but, just with content creation.
Right.
So that's been a pet project of mine that it's been a while in the making, and I'm just excited to have it live and out there, and people can take advantage of it. And if you're not a content creator but a content consumer, please feel free to swing by, and we got some top quality content for you, no shortage. And past that, yeah, just more of the same. Trying to help this massive influx of new players we've seen over the past few weeks, and continue building out the TST brand, quote unquote.
Right. I totally agree with her. And I also want to express again how honored I was and thankful that you reached out to me to be the inaugural post for your team share content. I think that was great. I think it was just basically both of us thinking, hey, we could mutually benefit from this. It could only help the community. And so again, I just want to say thanks for extending that offer to me, and definitely looking forward to working more with you and the team, and creating more content that helps the players.
The feeling's mutual, man. Yeah, everything of yours is either just insanely helpful or makes me think critically. And, just thank you for putting out that kind of content.
I appreciate it. One thing I think you forgot to mention, you just started something new with Copper Pitch, right?
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm so bad at this. Thank you kindly for reminding me. Yeah, if you were listening to my nasally voice this entire time and thinking, man, I could use another hour of this at some point during the week, I have great news for you. Copper Pitch and I just started, I believe, the first Gods Unchained podcast. The title of the podcast is Pods Unchained. I thought of that myself.
Great
I'm going
title.
to pat myself on the back for that one. Thank you. Yeah, but no, we're on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter at Pods Unchained. Um, yeah, we're gonna have weekly content coming out there. And if you have any ideas or questions or stuff you want Copper and I to cover, again, please feel free to reach out.
Yep, definitely. I think it's a good thing. It's a sign of growth for the player base in the community, and I think it's going to be it's an additional resource that I think will be very useful, and is only going to make things better for everyone. So definitely commend you and Copper Pitch for coming up with that podcast and throwing it out there. So I'm looking forward to listening to more content.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. And also, yeah, I gotta say, big shouts to Soul One, who kind of just spontaneously popped into Copper's Discord there and said something along the lines of, "Copper, you should do a podcast," and then tagged me and said, "Cautionfun seems like a cool guy with opinions." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh yeah, I got opinions, that's for sure." So
yeah.
just get really lit a fire under us, and yeah, I'm just happy to make more Gods Unchained related stuff and talk about Gods Unchained.
Yeah, I think this is a great time for the game and the community, and the buzz will just keep growing until it gets deafening, and everybody it's going to be raining something from the heavens, whatever you want it to rain, it's going to be coming down from the gods and
Oh
chains.
man, fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Before we leave, I just have one question for you. Last question. So I've
Shoot.
been, yeah, I've been a frequent, um, viewer on your stream, and I follow, and just curious. I mean, and this is definitely, I totally understand this, but maybe our viewers don't understand. When people follow and sub, Nick Cage pops up on the screen, and it's hard to say, it's hard not to be a Nick Cage fanboy. So what do you have, like a Nick Cage story you want to share?
Um, I this is fantastic. I really don't.
Okay.
I just really like Nick Cage.
Yeah.
I
Who
just
doesn't?
sometimes silly people, people in denial. I don't know. That's a good question. But yeah, no, I mean, I sometimes I find myself, in my downtime, I'll find myself just chilling, nothing to do, and something will just like from the back of my brain just comes to the forefront and says, "Hey, why don't you put on National Treasure?" It happens like almost monthly, And yeah, I don't want to act like I'm not a big fan of his other work, but I mean, man, just something about that guy. I don't know what it is, just hypnotic.
Yeah, no, I think for him is, I mean, he's everywhere. He's in like a million movies, but I think for him, you could count on him giving his 100% in, every movie, whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. But he just, he's a tryhard, I guess, like us, right?
I guess so. Yeah, he does not mail it in. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my, since we're sharing Nick Cage stories here real quick, one of the things that I like about him, I mean, I like a lot of his movies, but one scene of his that I like, I can't, you might know this, I can't remember the movie, but it's on YouTube. It's where I think he's playing a lawyer, and he sings the alphabets in such a crazy way because he was teaching his, I think, secretary how to file. Not sure if you've seen that or if you remember that, but that's the one Nick Cage scene that I always remember.
No, I haven't. I haven't, at least off the top of my head, anyway. But
Okay.
I will be furiously googling that
Yeah,
as soon as we finish
yeah,
here.
you have to Google Nick Cage recites the alphabet. I think that's going to give you the most relevant hit.
That sounds like gold.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, anything else before we end the interview?
Um, I got nothing. Just a big thank you for having me on, man. A big fan of quite literally everything you've put out, and just
Thank, thank you.
looking forward to consuming more and hopefully working together.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. The kind words. So for those listening, I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description. Caution's Twitch, uh, Caution's and the Team TST's Discord, their team site. We talked about his Genesis article on Hive, so we'll have a bunch of information in the description for you guys to follow up on, learn more about the game, Caution, and also TST. So again, I want to thank you for your time, Caution. Definitely, I know you're a busy man. You have a lot of projects. You shared some of the things that's going on with you. So definitely appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of your experiences and story. Definitely with Play to Earn coming, I think the story doesn't end here. A lot of people will be going down that journey for the first time. And I think, like you said, you're approachable and you can be found in the TST Discord. So I think if anybody has follow-up questions about Play to Earn, you guys know where to find Caution.
Ah, I appreciate it, man. I'm just looking forward to the next one.
Alrighty. Cool. All right. Well, have a great day and we'll talk to you later.
You as well, my friend. Take it easy.
All right.